Nations send their best to the campus. The campus shapes them and sends them back to shape nations. But who is reaching the campus? Not just the students, the lecturers, the staff, the traders, the campus communities, and the whole campus. Welcome to Campus Missions Talk, where we equipped the whole church to reach the whole campus with the whole gospel. Because whoever reaches the campus reaches the future. Dr. Hakuritao's Gaya is my name, and let's talk campus missions. Can I invite you to like this page, share the content, and invite someone to join this conversation? Thank you.
Reach the campus, reach the future, send the church through every door. Whole gospel, whole campus, whole mission. This is what we're living. Campus, reach the nation, every sphere and every soul. From the gate to the community, we won't stop.
Oh, friends, welcome to another episode of Campus Missions Talk. I'm glad that you have joined us here again. And today we'll be looking at the whole gospel for the whole campus. Why every person on campus deserves the full message of the gospel. You see, on a campus, we have a crisis. And what's that crisis? It's a crisis of incomplete gospel. Yes, the gospel is not absent on campus. We have the fellowships, we have chapels, we have outreaches that happen weekly. The problem, what's presented is often a fraction of the real thing that they need to hear. So what passes for gospels today on our campuses, right? Motivational speeches, destiny and success talks, prosperity formulas, sow a seed and claim a blessing. Emotional experiences moves the heart, it never moves the mind. Morality program, rules without redemption. So we have all this there. So the campus that received half gospel, we produce half Christians. Religious activity without theological foundation, emotional experience without intellectual framework, and moral rules without a transforming encounter with the living God. Let me ask you, all the Christians we have working in our offices, where were they yesterday? They were in fellowships yesterday. They were in chapel yesterday. But why are they not shining the light of Christ in the marketplace? Because half gospel shaped them on campus. So we must focus on the whole gospel for the whole campus. So the whole campus nation deserves the whole story. Students, lecturers, staff, traders, the campus community, not a truncated version, not a culturally, comfortable version of the gospel. They need to hear the whole gospel story. But what is the full gospel story? What is the whole gospel? What's the whole gospel? God's redemptive work from eternity past to eternity future, not a formula, not a struggle, but a story. And how did it begin? It began at creation. It began with glory. Humanity was made in the image of God. There was dignity, there was purpose, there was creativity, there is rationality. The student is not an accident of evolution. The lecturer's intellect reflects the creator's mind. The cleaner's work has dignity, and God himself works. So it begins from Genesis 1. We see a God that is creative. He created human beings in his image. So it begins with glory. But did it end there? No. The fall came in Genesis 2. There was a cosmic fracture. Sin shattered everything. Relationship with God, one another, creation, ourselves. Why the brilliant professor can be morally corrupt. Have you ever seen a doctor who smokes? Yeah. He had knowledge, but he smokes. Why campus economies are riddled with exploitation. Why students with every advantage still feel empty. So the God gospel does not share away from the depth of the problem. So the fall of man, it brought brokenness to the shalom. So our campuses today are broken communities. But did it end there? No, it didn't end there. Redemption. God entered the brokenness. Incarnation. God became human, living the life we could not live, dying the death we deserve to live. And that's the process of our substitution. And of course, there was a triumph. He died and rose again, rising over sin, death, and every power of darkness. I hope you follow the story. The glory, the fall, and God's redemption. So the cross is not a motivational symbol. It is the axis of history. And every student of the campus nation must be confronted with its claim. The claim of the cross must confront everyone. Christ came, was born, he lived, was crucified, and died and rose again. It's a message that everyone needs to hear, and that moves us to the point of restoration, renewal of all things. God is not merely saving souls out of the world. He's renewing the world itself. So how we teach and govern, how we treat the poorest worker, and how we use power and pursue truth. In fact, how we even do what? How we even pursue knowledge. See, when you don't have the whole gospel, you won't know that all truths are truth coming from God. So the whole gospel framework, it begins with creation, the fall, redemption plan of God, and restoration. So the whole gospel, whole people, whole campus, whole vision of God's kingdom coming to the world. So the whole campus, this must go for everyone. Every student needs this gospel. Applying this full message to every member of the campus nation. They need the gospel. Can we begin from the students? Engage the mind. The intellectual challenge. Classroom dismiss God. Relativists, they have met through relatives, right? Because of postmodernism. Academic framework treat faith as superstition. A half gospel built on emotion cannot survive this pressure. Students need a faith robust enough for the most rigorous academic scrutiny. They must know that even their studies are spiritual. What about the lecturers? The neglected mission field. What do they need? They need to be trained in rigorous disciplines, skeptical of simplistic claims. They need to be trained on how to engage intellectually. They need to know that God is not anti-science. They need to be equipped properly. A gospel-engaging Christian intellectual history that is coherent and is beautiful. They need to be equipped. We need to answer to, what is the meaning of my life? Why does my work matter? I'm a professor. Why does my work matter? Am I doing a spiritual exercise? Am I doing something meaningful? See, they need to be equipped to see that there are people on a mission. What about the non-academic staff? They are quite invincible. They have unseen burdens, financial pressure, family crisis, health challenges, and spiritual confusion. But you see what? Their work has dignity. God himself is a worker. The last shall be the first. We must train them to know that when you are cleaning the hostel, when you are cleaning the classes, you are actually serving God. That is gospel message. That is God glorifying. They need to know that. But if they don't know, what happened? We need to draw them to the gospel promise of community, of purpose, and hope the circumstances cannot provide for them. They need to be trained, they need to be equipped, they need to be empowered to know that what I'm doing is meaningful. What about the traders and the campus economy? Spiritual bondage in business. The occultic pressures you see there. The herbalists, the rituals, the fear of spiritual attack for their business. The whole gospel will confront this with the authority of Christ. We need to teach them kingdom economics, work with integrity, trust God for provision, and seeing their business stands at mission fields as a place to dispense the gospel. They need to serve with fairness, invest in the community, and see to it that they are ambassadors of Christ and they are letting the light of Christ shine over there. What about the host community beyond the fence? Community living in the shadow of the campus. What do they face? Poverty, social dislocation, environmental degradation. The whole gospel compels the church to see the host community not as outsiders, but as neighbors who deserve the same gospel, the same love, the same tangible expression of God's kingdom. We should not do ministry on campus without thinking about the community that is there that is hosting the gospel. What are the dangers of having half gospel on campus? Of course, we're going to have what? Predictable distortion. Every half gospel produces predictable failure. Let's look at one, the prosperity gospel on campus. God becomes a means. Academic success in financial breakthrough is what brings them. Faith becomes transactional. Prayer becomes manipulation and not an act of worship. Then what's the result? Faith collapses. When the exam is failed, the job doesn't come, the scholarship falls through. What happened? They feel God have failed me. I'm seeing me. In my about 20 years work on campus, I've seen students who are promised, sow a seed and you'll pass the exam. Prayer made on biros, but eventually they write the exam with the biro. They still have carryovers. What about the emotional gospel we have on campus? What happened? You have passionate worship on Friday night. They cannot articulate their belief on Monday morning. And what happened? Their worldview is dismantled in philosophy class because they are not prepared. Their faith is shallow. When preaching is done, they cry, they come out, they fall under the anointing, but their lives are not changed. Shallow faith does not survive deep challenges. We need to train this young mind to hold on the gospel. So as you have been following, we've been looking at what happens when we give the campus half gospel. And I've established that we have what is called predictable distortions. When prosperity gospel is given on campus, faith becomes transactional and God becomes a means. And when emotional gospel on campus is given, they can be passionate in worship on Friday night, but on Monday morning, in the philosophy class, their worldview is dismantled. And shallow faith cannot really survive deep challenges, right? What about moralistic gospel on campuses? That produces rule followers who know what they are not supposed to do, but they have no living relationship with the one who set them free. They know the doctrine of their church. They know the rules, but they don't know the Christ of the church, right? So sexual temptation can overwhelm them. Academic fraud become easy. So it's common to say, oh, everybody is doing it. I remember a time on campus where I complained to some brethren, and one told me that, bros, don't you know that even the Bible says we should help those who are of the household of faith? Imagine cheating in exams. So you could see that when there is no that root, rules alone cannot hold. What about social gospel without doctrine? There's a passion without anchor. They care about justice, no theology of sin and grace. They have change without hope. They can fight for change, but there's no eschatological vision for the coming of Christ. What happened? Burnout. Activism without the whole gospel is a fire that consumes its own fuel and is something to think about. So friends, only the whole gospel produces whole Christian on campus. So I'm saying we must give theological depth. We must give attention to intellectual integrity. It's the thing that will give moral courage, and it's that thing that will give missional purpose. Could that be why we have graduates who are not missional in their mindset. So what am I calling you to today? I'm calling you who is listening to me to preach the whole gospel to every campus missionary, to every fellowship leader, to every preacher, to every church leader, to every pastor. Preach the whole gospel. That's what the campus needs. And that's what we need to give the campus. So the campus demands an intellectual gospel. Not intellectualism, but a gospel that takes the life of the mind seriously. Preach doctrine, teach theology, expose them to 2,000 years of Christian thought. Let them know about Augustine. Let them know about Athanasius. Let them know about Calvin. Let them know about However, let them know about John Stott and several other theologians. Christianity is the most intellectually rigorous, historically grounded, and philosophically coherent worldview ever articulated. Did you get that? I say Christianity is the most intellectually rigorous, historically coherent, philosophically coherent, and worldview ever articulated. And we need to train this young mind to know that Christianity is not scam, as they will always say. So preach with warmth and compassion. The campus is not only an intellectual environment. It is a place of, it's a place where the whole gospel engages the mind, heals the heart, restores the will, reconciles relationship, and gives hope beyond circumstances. See, the students are humans. The lecturers are human beings. There are broken hearts and shattered families on campuses. Mental health crisis and loneliness are common on the campuses. Sexual confusion and existential despair, identity crisis. We need to preach the gospel with warmth. The whole campus deserves nothing less than the whole gospel. Let us not give them anything less. Hear me again. The whole gospel is what the whole campus needs. But we not give them half truth. Let's give them the full gospel. What will you do after listening to this? Let me share with you 3 urgent steps for everyone called to the campus. You are burdened. Number 1, evaluate your message. Does your content cover creation? Does it cover the fall? Does it cover redemption? Does it cover restoration? Or have you adapted a truncated version of the gospel? You must teach them the whole gospel. Number 2, know your audience beyond students. Who else is on campus? What does the gospel say to the lecturers, to the administrators, to the security, to the guards, and to the traders on campus? Then go deeper. Invest in theological education. Read widely. Study deeply. And the campus demands our best intellectually and spiritual in form of preparation. See, one way, you don't need to be in the seminary, but you can buy books that you can use to shape and equip them, and they will go out there to grow and make a difference. A campus missionary who cannot engage with the ideas circulating in the classroom is a missionary who has brought a penknife to a battlefront. Did you get that? A campus missionary who cannot engage with the ideas circulating in the classroom is a missionary who has brought a penknife to a battlefront. Are you equipped to engage the minds on the campuses? The whole gospel, the whole campus. Half messages we produce, half Christians. The whole campus deserves nothing but the whole gospel. I invite you to like and share, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode as we take our conversation further. Thank you.